Yo, what's good, folks? The golden voice that you're hearing right now is none other than the one and only Truth Be Told. You know, positive is where I live. And the podcast that you're listening to right now is The E.I.T.H.R by my boy, D.Cal, my OG. So give it up and listen in. I love y'all. Mwah.
What up, what up, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, are we on? Looks like we are. Hey, this is D-Cal, host of the E.I.T.H.R podcast. How you guys doing?
Here we go, a show to slowly unfold some views that's in the news that make us uncomfortable. You never heard this podcast, it's broadcasting contrast of popular opinion. Stop that, assuming that you knew every view that's brewing. So keep it moving. If you got any sense, then you're welcome to put two so in. Listen in, relax, chill, take a breather, and let D.Cal put y'all onto the ether.
Hey, what up? It's your boy D-Cal here, hosting the E.I.T.H.R podcast, number 140. Hope everyone's having an awesome day today. Hope everyone had a great week. And so let me do it this way. I want to talk about something that I mentioned on the last episode that I don't want to say bothers me, doesn't want to say irk me, but it's one of those scenarios where I feel there's a lot of details that goes into this topic that we're going to talk about on today's podcast. But before we get started, let's do everything that we normally do. The E.I.T.H.R podcast stands for the elephant in the room, where we discuss topics and issues that you normally would not be able to have with people in your circle because they tend to be short-sighted. The purpose is to look at things from a non-biased as much as possible perspective, so you can see multiple perspectives from it, different angles. Even if you choose to disagree or continue to disagree with what we talk about, hopefully you'll be walking away a little bit more informed about what it is you're disagreeing with. So, to those who are new to the podcast, welcome. And to those who are returning, welcome back. You can follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter at the E.I.T.H.R, T-H-E-E-I-T-H-R. If you want to shoot me a text message or phone call, easy, 916-282-9372. You can also check out our television channel or our online streaming channel at gnsetv.com. So what we do here at E.I.T.H.R, we like to start off with shout outs and we like to give inspirational and motivational. So what I want to do is just give a shout out to everybody out there who is surviving the month of January. Things are going on right now with taxes and gas prices starting to kind of go down, but they're also starting to kind of go up. I do want to give a shout out to the gig workers out there too. You know, people doing Instacart, Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, stuff like that. I know a lot of these companies are starting to raise their prices and incorporate fees, which is taken away from your gratuity. Look, man, keep grinding. Just come up with a game plan that's going to hopefully make all your time spent more efficiently. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And all that is subjective because it's going to be better for somebody. So figure out a way to make it better for yourself. And then for inspirational, motivational, listen, we put this on our social media page. So because never be a prisoner of your past. It was a lesson, not a life sentence. And that is very crucial for some of us, especially myself, to accept and realize and understand. Because the way my brain works, my brain doesn't forget shit. It just doesn't. And for whatever reason, it always constantly reminds me, especially at all the wrong times, right? So, but I've learned to take that curse and turn it into a gift where it's more of a preparation. And one of the things I've said in the past is frustration is lack of preparation. So if you're prepared for situations and scenarios, you be less frustrated when those situations occur because you kind of have a plan. So what we're going to do, man, we're going to get into this topic of interracial dating because I have a multitude angles of this particular topic. So some of this is going to probably piss some people off. Others are going to probably enlighten you. So we're going to see which way this sways you guys. But in the meantime, we're going to get a word from our sponsor real quick, and then we're going to come back and jump into this whole ordeal that people have about it. So, what's your perspective on it? Do you feel interracial dating is a good thing? Do you feel it's a great thing? Do you feel it's a bad thing, a horrible thing? Do you even feel it's not necessarily a thing at all to you? We're going to dig into that to the E.I.T.H.R podcast. So just sit back and we'll be right back.
Most t-shirts are simply cool to look at or look in. Well, so are ours, but ours also aim to send a message. They aim to put a name on obstacles that once stood in your way and aren't there anymore. Struggles that you turned into successes and crushed. You made it look easy. Shop at mile.today. Mile.today. www.mile.today. A GNS collection.
This is Krista from Sacramento, and you're listening to D-Count on the E.I.T.H.R podcast.
All right, it's D-Cal here at the E.I.T.H.R podcast. We're going to be talking about interracial dating, interracial relationship. When it comes down to it, the question is, should people of different races, different colors, different cultures date, mingle, intertwine? And there's a very hot button in certain circles. And I understand there's also some people who will talk about it just to kind of kick the hornet's nest. They just want to get shit cracking in a conversation. They just want to troll. They just want to stir the pot. Some feel when it comes to interracial relationship that it's taboo. It's an evil thing. It's a bad thing. It's something that one shouldn't do. It's something that shouldn't be tolerated. In some cultures, it's not even allowed whatsoever. It's highly frowned upon. It's highly looked down on. And you are very, very much judged. I remember in the early 2000s, an ex of mine, we were visiting her family in Southern California. And I remember we were at this mall. And the way they would look at any mixed couple, and it was one of those scenarios where I was like, damn, they really paying attention to. And she says to me, interracial relationships at that time, at least, were very, very uncommon. Especially, we were in Torrance, California. And it really wasn't seen as commonly as it is like in Northern California. Now, Southern California, from what I have been told from natives of Southern California, that there's a different politic when it comes to people of different races, different culture, where one side might be more acceptable than the other. The other side doesn't tolerate, or you just can't mix. You just can't breed two different races that are just not the same. It's not acceptable in families. Then there's some people you can be friends with other cultures, but they kind of don't even want you associating with, which is, I don't want to say it's the same thing as, racism and segregation, but it's more of a preferred thing for bloodlines and to keep the bloodline pure. And let's face it, when you have something and you add something to it, add a different element, it can, quote unquote, for lack of better terms, dilute whatever it is that you're pouring into. Whatever is being added to no longer becomes a concentrated form of what it originally was. That kind of just a common sense thing. So when it comes to race and culture, there are some folks out there who want to keep their culture alive and keep their race strong and as authentic as they possibly can. And whenever you have interracial, you quote unquote dilute that, right? So it's just seen as taboo. And some people, I don't want to say it's insecure or you just seem inferior. Other groups, it's one of those, do you know what they did to us? Why would you want to mingle with them? Type of thing. I understand that. Again, I get it. It's a scenario where kind of like the movie Sleeping with the Enemy, but it's with a different premise behind it. It's you're mingling with someone who had a history of doing to this group, and you fall in love with that person. It's a, instead of a micro, it's a macro. They look at the bigger damage that's been never repaired or addressed, or anyone has done anything to try to reparate that. So my personal opinion on it is I look at it as everybody has their opinion because everyone has their experience with it. So you may grow up in an era or in an area where a particular race is very, very rare or scarce, or there's not many of this color, this culture, this ethnicity around. And the lack of experience with said culture may not have been the most fondest. It may not have been the best suited for. It probably was a bad look. It wasn't a great experience. So what we tend to do as people, generally, we take that survey, and that survey represents the masses, right? It's kind of how they do when they do their surveys, right? They take a small number of people, and that represents, the people of that color or that gender or that demographic or that location or whatever the case is, right? So you could have someone who had a bad experience with a certain color, certain race, and it just rubs them the wrong way. You could have a situation where other people aren't viewed high on the social totem pole, and dating someone of that could put you in a social predicament where you're not accepted or you're no longer viewed as you once were. You kind of been knocked down a few social totem pole. It be situations like that. The main thing is, when it comes down to it, it's ignorance, right? And I know personally from my experience growing up, I had to learn it. I had to figure things out. Now, I've never had an issue with people and races and ethnicities and backgrounds and shit like that. I would, if you look different, I don't know, ever since I was a little kid, if you look different, my whole MO was to kind of get to know you. Was to, well, why are you different? And I'm pretty sure it could have been better, but I had a pretty good filter when I would talk to someone who, looked different, appeared different, acted different. I think I had a pretty good filter for a young child. Even to this day, I still have people talk about how I treated them compared to other people when we were going up to elementary, junior high school, so on and so forth. But I would go out of my way to at least talk, find something in common, spark a conversation. So that's always been my personality from jump. And when it comes to dating, it was very different, and I couldn't understand why until I got older. So I'm gonna put this out there really, really, really simply. I love black women. Without one, I would not be here, right? Without a black woman, I would not be on this earth. So there's that. I don't understand the animosity, the hatred towards when someone dates outside of their race. Now, again, as I said in the beginning, it can be completely based on your location, right? Because you have situations like in the South, for example. In the South, you don't get black, white, right? You don't get too many blank with white in the South. From what I have been told from people who live and or from the southern region of the United States of America, that certain spots of the South are way more harsh than other parts of the South. It's very, to this day, segregated. My homegirl Jess' husband is from Mississippi, and she's white, he's black. Man, it don't go too well for her or them when seen in public. They kind of get that stink eye, she told me before. But they both understand it, they both realize it, but they're not tripping because they're married to each other, they're not married to strangers who are judging them. But, she does her part by saying, I understand, what the issue is that they have. I get it. I mean, I'm not contributing to it. I'm not who they think I am. But I understand why they think that because of how circumstances are, right? So you have this whole redirection of animosity from one side to the other, and it kind of goes back and forth like a volley of tennis. It's just I hate you because of this. Well, I hate you because of that. Well, this only happened because of that. Well, that only happened because of this. And it's just the blame game. And nobody wants to sit back and say, okay, what can we do to work together to stop this shit? And some of the videos that I've seen on social media when it comes to interracial relationship, it's mainly black and white, right? It's mainly black men, white women, from what I have viewed. Now, it could be completely different, and Lord knows there's a multitude of different cultural integrations that happen within this world, right? But the main one that is on display is black and white. That's usually a black male, white woman. And a lot of black women let me take that back. A number of black women get frustrated when they see a white woman taking a black man, because it's one of those, they taking all of our men. Okay, I can understand that. And then there was a part where it was very unique to see white male, black woman, because you don't see that. That's kind of one of those, when that happened, right? In my perspective, when it comes to that, man, is you have to understand what a person is attracted to, right? When I was in school, like high school, I had a preference. And I've grown up to understand maybe my type ain't my type. Maybe the type that I wanted, I preferred, I looked for, maybe that wasn't exactly what's best for me. Because it seemed every time I went after that type, shit went sideways real quick, right? And that kind of scarred me into my later years of generalizing all women to be the same. No, it's not. It's just you have a certain type of woman that you preferred, and this is kind of where it led you to. but it also has a lot to do with what were the examples of women for you to look after? What were the example of women in your life that you told yourself, this is what a woman is, right? And that tends to, in my opinion, mingle with the preference of race, color, and ethnicity in relationships. Because most people in poor neighborhoods to survive, is to get out of the situation. Also, the mindset is not show any weakness and to be the strongest one out there. Also, the mindset is to get as much as you can before everybody else can. It's, food is scarce. You don't know when you're going to eat. So you got to gather as much as you can and keep it for yourself. Anyone else gets theirs because you don't know when your next is going to be. It's like a survival mode. So a lot of people in these relationships tend to have a survival instinct. And they don't realize or understand how it's affecting their relationship with people. Looking for that angle to come up. But that's the environment they come in. Majority, not all, majority of people who look like that, who live like that, tend to be people of color. And their environment are extremely broken. Right? There's no head of household. There's a single parent. You pick which parent, mom, dad, is irrelevant. But in most cases, a single mom. And they have their display of who a provider is with whomever they see outside amongst the world that they deal with on a daily basis. And sometimes by not having that dual parent household, you don't get the perspectives of mom and dad, male and female, strong, fierce, loving, compassionate. You don't get that. So there's a void missing. And you don't understand that certain cultures, certain races display these things differently. From my experience and understanding, most white households have this understanding of communication. Use your words. There's some stability because most of them have dual parenting homes. Not all of them, but most of them have dual parenting homes. And the ones who have single parent homes, more likely than not, there are some, but more likely than not, they have strong role models around them who are high executives or some type of supervisory managerial position. They have someone that started a businesses, someone who comes from means or has what some would view as wealth and stability. They know people who are married, who have houses, who have cars, who have this, what's perceived to be the American dream. So the mindset and how they see things visually and mentally is, okay, this is what security looks like. Flip side of that coin is struggling parent, broken houses, broken marriages, people who are promiscuous more than two people at once, people who are constantly lying and running game, people who are always in survival mode. So in their mind, their experiences, this is relationships, is I have somebody, but I still got to take care of me. Because the people that they look up to are dealing with folks who are constantly trying to either A, take from them, or B, not contribute anything and leech and loaf off them. So their expectation of having a partner is negative. It's always constant drama. It's always constantly give. They take. And it's never given back. It's never reciprocated. It's just never easy. It's never even. So you get people with those two worlds. What happens is you have the side who has the stability. They see the side that's broken. They want to fix that. So they want to be the good partner. to give them what they're lacking, thinking they're doing a good deed, which in some cases they are. The broken side sees that as a come up. They see, oh, finally someone I can leech off of, get what I want. The survival mindset. And the one of the few things on the priority list of that mindset is the attraction. There's a physical attraction, sure, but there's not much intimate attraction. There's not much mental attraction. There's not emotional attraction, because that is something that they necessarily never were shown is just as important, if not more. They've never been displayed that. So they're unaware of these things. Most people in the broken home scenario, as I said before, are people of color. Not all, but a good portion. Most people in the stable home are people of not color. Not all, but a good portion of. So you get the two different worlds. Now, with that said, someone from the broken home might get tired of dealing with someone who's also from a broken home. Because again, in the hood, it's show no weakness. You can't let them see you cry. You can't let them see you sweat. So in some cases, man, when you're trying to do a repair and trying to fix and trying to come up and trying to remove, there are examples that to other people who aren't aware of it, they feel that shit's weak. They feel like you're turning your back on the rest of us, and they'll pressure you into coming back into the habits that you're trying to break, right? So when it comes to that, they don't understand what emotional sophistication, emotional stability, mental sophistication, someone who is emotionally mature with ambition and drive, and someone who wants something outside of what's been given. Unfortunately, a lot of people who are in these struggling environments, man, their will has been broken to the point where many of them don't even try to get outside the box. And the reason being, they're discouraged. Their mindsets are broken before they even give themselves the attempt to try something. I'm doing all this backstory because people in broken communities are shown what they are worth, what they can be. People in stable homes, in stable households, in stable relationships are shown the same thing, but they're completely different, right? Most households that have the two-parent with the income and the stability and the support system, they're displayed in professions such as dentistry and medicine and philosophy and science and astronomy and things of, for lack of a better term, leadership position. Those in broken homes are showing more athleticism or entertainment positions, sports, movies, cinema. Now, granted, you can see those things in both homes, but primarily it seems to be targeted more this way or more that way. Most people in stable homes are also shown the difference between instant gratification and compound interest, meaning shit builds over time. You plant the seed, you water it, you watch it grow, you watch it develop, you watch it bloom. It takes time. You have to put in effort. You have to put in smart at being hardworking. You have to be very diligent. You have to be very focused. You have to be very driven. You have to be very... These folks are, for the most part, taught these traits. Most people in broken homes are taught now. Tomorrow's not promised. So again, you don't necessarily have the same type of ambition towards the same type of goals. Don't. It's not programmed. So, all that said, to plant the seed that watch growth to the point right here. Most white folks understand the difference between ambition and hard work when it comes to entrepreneurship in the corporate world. Most POCs understand how to work hard at your job. Is it that way specifically 100%? No, there's case-by-case scenarios. Of course there are. But on the grand scheme of things, that's how it always been. Sometimes you get someone who's ambitious and doesn't want to be an employee. They want to be an employer. Well, if people around you aren't familiar with that being an option, they don't understand it. Their brain doesn't process it the same way. It's the crab in the barrel mindset. So they're going to bring you down to what they believe is reality because your head is too high in the clouds. Sometimes most people mesh outside of their race because the person that's of a different ethnicity in their environment that they have contact with has a similar thought process. They have a common future. Everyone else has the common past. And if you listen to episodes of the E.I.T.H.R. before, I always suggest with people, find those with a common future versus those with a common past. Because whoever you mingle with the most, either that's where you're headed or that's where you'll stay. So, when you date people outside of your race, generally speaking, it's because that person has a common future or commonality that you have, and you both kind of see eye to eye. Whether it's studying, whether it's work ethic, whether it's ambition for a goal, for a dream, whether you have a talent and they have the mouthpiece, and it's, okay, I can represent and get you introduced to these people here. You just got to be able to do your thing when you get the opportunity. Business partnership, if you will. Sometimes you get folks from different walks of life that just mesh well. The other thing is this. Growing up, I have been accused of preferring white women over any and anybody else. Hell, you listen to me on the microphone right now. Most people think I sound white. It's always interesting how you can sound the color, but that's just how it is, right? I have looked back at my life and realized, no, bro, it's not the fact that I prefer white women over everything else. I prefer women. I don't give a fuck what your color is. I don't give a fuck what your race is. Because someone once said, how can someone hate an entire race of people? You haven't met everybody. You just don't like the ones of that culture that's in your immediate circle or in your environment. That's fine. If you go to a different city, you'll come to a different encounterment. You go to a different state, it's a whole different mindset. You go to a whole different country, oh, I'm going to throw everything out the window because nothing is going to repeat itself over there. But I look back and realize I wasn't what majority of the black women who I was attracted to, who I asked to go out on dates, who I wanted to court, I wasn't the black man for them. Why? Really simple. If you pay attention to TV and social media today, 2024, how are black men displayed? How are black women displayed? How are we portrayed in television? Generally. I mean, there's going to be some cases where you get a different variation of the norm. But on a bigger scale, over the years, what's Diana Ross's daughter's name? I can't remember to save my life right now. But her and some other actors have lost roles because they didn't act black enough. You see, there's a certain image that we are portrayed to be. And when you demonstrate that to the world, that's what the world expects you to be. Depending on circumstances, you will be accepted for who you are, or you will be denied because you're not what we expected. I didn't come off like most black kids from Oakland. I didn't. My pants fit. My shirts were buttoned. My hair was cut. I had a study habit. I had a great sense of humor, right? But I also wasn't always cutting class. I was a class clown, sure. But I will also say in many of my classes when we moved to Castro Valley, I was one of the few black faces in my class. So there really wasn't too many of me to associate, talk to, deal with. Now, when I met up with some of them, like my boy Ronald and Amon and Juice, Reggie Juice Bailey and Daryl Hampton and Eddie Lee and the rest of them, you know, we mingled, we talked. And when I got to high school, it was completely different with E.I.T.H.R and Rashawn and Doug and Dave Parker and the Edward twins and all that fun stuff. So, you know, the pop grew bigger with that. But it was one of those scenarios where we didn't necessarily act the way we are shown on television and in different avenues of media. I bring that up because not everybody wants to date Ratchet. As much as you don't want to square, not every brother wants to date someone who's ratchet. Just it's becoming a turnoff because, again, it's one of those, that's not who I am, that's not me, that's not what I'm about. You should want to date someone that's a representation of you when you're not around. And listen, there's a time and place for ratchet. There's a time and place to be loud and ghetto. There's a time and place to have fun. 24/7 ain't it though, right? 24/7 is just not the time and place. And from my perspective, it's really, really difficult to be told you're not something because you simply don't look, act, appear to be what everyone thinks you should be. That's just not a good look. But it's a reality. It's a reality, right? So a lot of interracial relationships happen because in your environment, in your world, in the area that you in, the ones who look like you don't want to move like you for whatever reason. And you can try to bring them up to your level, but it's just easier for them to pull you down to theirs. It is definitely something that the broken household is missing from that lack of stability, which is hope and ambition and drive. And there is no shame in knowing. If I don't know this, we get to learn, we get to figure it out. But the environments do make it dangerous because, again, if you're the one who's trying to leave and get out, some people may take that as a disrespect. Some people may take that as you think you're better than. So we're going to make sure you don't go nowhere. So you don't forget your place, forget who you are, forget where you come from. I feel, let me take that back. I have this notion that if more people understood who they were, what they are, it will be easier for them to accept what they're attracted to. Because you put out what you want, believe it or not. And I'm listening, man, there's plenty of people who are one way, but they want to act the opposite. They just don't know how. And when you leave that group and got to go home, you're back in the world that you're trying to escape. It's very, very difficult to want to do something different when everything around you is constantly staying the same. So Again, interracial relationships are challenging mainly because you're being judged by those who don't understand. I don't see a problem with it because there's really only one race, human race. Culture is something that you create. A tribe is a group of people who you come together in a community-like environment. Who gives a shit? Again, if you want to stick to your own, 100% that's your prerogative. I get it. If you feel I'm going to be attracted to who I'm attracted to, 100% your prerogative. I get it. There's always going to be those who have an angle that they're trying to get. There's always going to be that. But for the most part, if you see someone dating someone who looks different than you, instead of saying that they're taking all the good, fill in the blank, maybe you should ask yourself, is that what I want? No. Why am I concerning myself with it then? Do I want something like that? Yes. Do I want it with someone that looks like that? No. Okay. What is he doing? What is she doing? What have they done to put themselves in a position to where they can get someone that thinks like that? Okay. Self-improvement, self-evaluation, self-love, self-reflection, self-accountability. I have to do all those things. Okay. Most importantly, it's not about who you date. It's about being the person that's compatible with someone who has the same mindset as you. You can be happy on your own. You can be happy by yourself. That's the goal. Remember what Will Smith said. It's not his job to make Jada happy. If that was his job, he would be miserable. His job is to complement her happiness. Her responsibility is to make herself happy. His job is to find out what that is and to continue that. It's not his job to figure it out for her. We want happy, healthy relationships. You shouldn't date someone, in my opinion, because they look the same as you. That's almost crippling and stunting any potential growth you may have to become a better person. On top of that, if you find someone that looks differently than you, you get to understand things that you normally wouldn't understand from a distance because now you're up close. You're not trying to be anybody's fucking savior, but at the same time, you want to be able to educate yourself on what ignorance that you may have so you don't repeat the same issues that's been going on for decades. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Listen, that's my episode, man. I just kind of want to talk on that a little bit. It's your boy D.Cal with the E.I.T.H.R podcast number, episode 140. You can follow us on social media at the E.I.T.H.R, E.I.T.H.R. You can hit us up on the Instagram or the Twitter. GNSETV.com. GNSETV.com. Free subscription. Sign up for that. Much appreciate that. If you guys go ahead and help your boy out with that. Mile.today for our sponsor. MILE.TODAY. Appreciate that. Y'all, copy yourselves a hoodie, t-shirt, beanie, whatever. Shout out to Mickey on Middays. Mickey on Middays down there in Southern California at the National Association for Musicians. Enjoy yourself at NAM. We'll be back in the next episode 141. It's your boy D.Cal. You guys have an awesome weekend. Talk to you later. Peace out.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is Sabrina Jade, and you're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with D.Cal.